in the first segment.
No, he's not.
Yeah, we don't need the coach yet.
Okay. He's just here for the party. I like it.
Putting up on 15
Do both.
seconds till
Get that man a drink.
He's keto, dude.
15
I would-
seconds.
I like that.
Have fun.
Boy, that was really insightful, Don. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the CMU Sideliners program on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Live from O'Kelly's Sports Bar and Grill in Mount Pleasant. I'm Don Chiodo. Great to have you along tonight as we're going to talk a little Central Michigan basketball, both men's and women's basketball tonight. The head coach of the men's program, Keno Davis, will be here. We'll talk about the Chippewas non-conference start as CMU's got a little bit of a break now after a game the other night against Jacksonville State as Central Michigan rattled off 4 wins in a row during the non-conference season, and then they'll get started again after the first of the year at home against Marygrove before starting the Mid-American Conference season. Then we'll turn our focus to Central Michigan women's basketball. At home, 90-66 over Prairie View A&M, and now Central Michigan with a huge challenge on the road Sunday at number 4 Notre Dame. That'll be a big one for the Chippewas. A couple of the assistant coaches will be here. We'll chat about the women's program as they try and go back-to-back in the Mid-American Conference. Then Jerry Reigard will be here as we find out a little bit more about CMU Gymnastics, another outstanding team. They just keep rattling off MAC titles. He's maybe got one of his best teams in a long, long time, so we'll chat with Jerry a little bit about that as their season is set to get underway in just a little bit. All that and more right here. If you are in Central Michigan, come on down and join us. Right, O'Kelly's on mission in Mount Pleasant. We'll be back with more on the CMU Sideliners after this time out on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Clear.
Want to turn heads? Showcase the
Central Michigan IMG Sports Network, Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. Hey, Chippewa fans, once again, Meyer Mount Pleasant invites local kids to register for a chance to be the Meyer Ball Kid of the Game during the 2013-14 men's basketball season. Visit Meyer on Picardy Mount Pleasant to get the official entry form. Joining us now, the head coach of the Chippewas, Keno Davis. We spent a lot of quality time together over here over the last few days as you had your longest road trip of the season. You started in Dayton, you ended down in Alabama, and now you get to focus a little bit more on getting the season started against some Mid-American Conference foes. But let's look back on your non-conference schedule and your playing up until this point. What are your thoughts on where your team is at right now?
I think you're trying to do two things in the non-conference part of the schedule. One is you're trying to improve your team, trying to get to the point where you feel like you can compete, and challenge for championships in your own conference. The other thing is you're trying to also put yourself in position for postseason play, and a lot of that is your non-conference record. And so to be able to come out with a 6-5 record with one more game to play before MAC play puts us in the position where we can look at that as a possibility. And I think that always keeps your players' attention as they try to focus not just on their individual goals, but for team goals as well.
I like to think that I follow college basketball pretty closely in what I do, but I'm totally confused by the postseason tournaments. I know about the NCAA tournament, but then you've got, it seems like 2 or 3 other separate tournaments. What's the criteria for getting into some of those?
Well, you still have the NIT tournament,
right?
Which is now owned and run by the NCAA. So you're going to see a formula, not the same kind of scrutiny over the teams that get in there, but they're doing the same type of process of trying to find the next best group. Then you have 2 other tournaments. You have the CBI tournament and the CIT tournament. And those are really good opportunities for teams that are, why would you play in one of those? Well, you're trying to play in them not only to gain exposure for your team, but to improve, to be able to have those extra practice days, get a chance to play in postseason. And as Division I, really what you're looking at is still the same percentage of teams are getting into tournaments. Now you just have some other venues to be able to do that.
And the format of those, unlike the NCAA tournament, you actually have an opportunity to play a home game in a situation like that, don't you?
Right. With both the CIT and the CBI, it's exclusively home venued. So it's not necessarily the better team gets the home venue. It's the team that is willing to guarantee the ticket revenue, that amount paid into the tournament to be able to host games. And, there's some where both teams will want to play home games, and they'll make a decision on that. And so really a good opportunity if you're able to advance. You look at Butler 2 years ago, played in the CBI tournament. And, of course, they had just come off of a couple national championship games, and yet they're playing in the CBI, 1 year removed. You look at VCU before their Final Four run. They were playing in the CBI. So, those tournaments are important as you try to develop your team. You sell that to recruits. You sell it to your fan base. And it really has a lot of positives to it.
Especially for a young team like your team. And how much did your team gain at the end of last year when you nearly got a trip to Cleveland at the end of your season? You had to go to Buffalo again, real bad draw in the MAC tournament the first round. You nearly pulled it off. You end up losing late in that contest in overtime. And I would think experience like that, somewhat similar to getting into a tournament, really helps your club.
Well, it does. I think, you're trying to play your best basketball at the end of the year because your goal is to win your conference tournament and be that automatic bid. And we felt like if we had gotten to Cleveland, it would have been tough to win that many games in a row. But we felt like we were playing as well as anybody. We go lose at Western in a one-possession game. We lose in overtime to Buffalo, who was one of the hottest teams at the end of the year. It's frustrating that our conference right now doesn't have everybody go to Cleveland because I think for student athletes to be able to experience that type of venue in an NBA arena really goes a long way to their experience. So it's our job, because they haven't changed that, to get there. And the way you get there is by being able to have a good regular season to increase your chances to maybe have a home game to be able to get to Cleveland or be one of those top 4 teams. Then you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to complain about the way the schedule is set, and just improve, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, the MAC schedule's coming up a little bit later on after the first of the year. You'll get a Miami team at home, I believe, on the 8th, correct?
It could be.
Yeah.
Coach,
you don't look far ahead.
Coaches, when they say we take it one game at a time, that's not coach speak. I don't know when our next game is, let alone when our conference opener is. I know when our next practice is. I know when we have to be ready and prepared to continue to improve.
Next game is the 3rd against Marygrove coming to town. That'll be a 7 o'clock game. And we'll see Mary Grove. Tell me about that game and what you use that for. Obviously, you're going to be a big favorite going into that contest. They've been struggling a little bit. They played a little bit lower level than you guys do. And really, a lot of teams do this as a game to get them ready for the start of that conference schedule after that break over Christmas and New Year's, right?
Yeah, it's unique for us. We have 8 days without practice this year. I don't think you'll see that from our team ever again. Of course, last year we had 2 days, and hopefully we find some happy medium in there where we're getting a chance to be able to get home, but yet you're not worried about the rust. So being able to have that many days off hopefully will help us in March. It won't help us right when we come back. We'll have to be able to go back to the practice court and really improve and put some things in. But hopefully a game like that will give us an opportunity to improve, but yet hopefully get a win in the process, getting ready for conference.
How do you snap those guys back when they come back after that break, when you're coming in and try and get them back into the flow real quick?
Well, every coach is going to have a philosophy of what they're going to do, and then they're going to show up, and you're going to be able to adapt, because it's not always going to work the way you expect of how many practices, how long practice is going to go, the type of intensity. You have an idea, but I think you have to be able to be versatile when that time comes. So we'll come back. We'll have a good focus on what we need to do conditioning-wise, as well as I think it's a great look to be able for our coaches to be able to find out. We don't have our rotation down yet. We may not have our starting group. We want to look at every player, give them an opportunity on the court to be able to win those starting spots, win rotation spots, and prove that they deserve an opportunity. Because when you're just getting ready for games, sometimes those guys that are buried on the bench don't get an opportunity like they will for us here in another week.
That's been one of your key messages to some of the guys that haven't seen a lot of minutes, is that you're very early in this process and they still have an opportunity to really earn some minutes for you. What are you looking for from those guys when they do get some time or in practice that's going to catapult them to more minutes and getting into the lineup?
Well, I think when you look at this year's team and you see Austin Stewart, starting for us, our fans probably didn't know who Austin Stewart was coming into this year, and that wasn't playing for us last year and is now a stabilizing fixture in our rotation. So I think what you're looking for is you're looking for energy and effort, and if they do that, you expect them to improve. Those guys that are working the hardest, running the hardest, they're going to increase their chances to be able to play. So I think you're looking for energy and effort and attitude. Those are things you can't really quantify about how important they really are to you. We've got a great attitude from our team, but we need like John Simons. We need some other guys to step up, into more significant roles for us to be able to be successful in the conference play.
Let's talk about that 4-game winning streak that you had that started here. Pleasant during the Central Michigan tournament against Austin Peay, and then you had an opportunity. You lost a game against Montana State. Then you got things going against Cal State Northridge, Corpus Christi, and you did some other good things in there. When your team see on the court, what will fans notice besides obviously the basket going in the bucket for you?
Well, I think as we develop our team, we're not the biggest, we're not the strongest team yet. So we need to be an up-tempo team. We need to be able to team that and uses our defense in the full court with our pressure and create havoc out there. When we're doing that and we're getting an up-tempo game, it just took a little longer than we had hoped at Jacksonville State. Late in that game, we had the speed going the way we wanted. They made some really tough shots. So I think as you see us running, what'll happen is we'll get those open three-point shots. We'll be able to drive to the basket. And now we got to find other guys to be able to drive and create and get to that free throw line. So I think when you see the speed of the game and you see us shooting free throws, our chances of winning go way up.
Depending upon the opponent, when you use your pressure, I know you bring it certain times, you don't on other times. Does it depend upon what you see as far as a matchup, where you're at in the game? Is it a feel thing? How do you go about that?
I think you'll see us, if you see us not pressing, there's a problem. When we played at Dayton, there was a problem. We weren't ready to be able to force the tempo and get more possessions in the game. Ideally, if you're going to see a lot more possessions in the game, you hope you're the better team to be able to take advantage of that. We knew going in we weren't, and that they were able to handle our press even though they had bigger, stronger. And so I think what you have to look at is how can you use your press to be effective? And that's not always just going for the steal and trying to force the tempo. Sometimes it's to slow down the tempo. And as a team gets more experience, they're able to understand that.
Offensively for your club, it seems like at times, and we noticed this in the Jacksonville State game, your club kind of went in spurts, not only when they were making shots, but just seemed like the flow of the game. You had some dry spells in there that allowed it to get away from you at the end. How do you go about as a coach curing that? I know to a certain extent you can't do anything about that, but as a coach, when you're seeing your team struggle offensively, what's the plan?
Well, the plan is offensively is to get the ball in the hands of somebody that can make something happen. The X and O's are important in basketball, but there's only so many times that you can use plays to be able to get yourself an open basket. Your best offense usually is to get the ball in the best ball handler's hands, or the guy that can score, and put the other guys in a position that will increase his chances so that they can't help off of those players and he's able to score. And for us this year, Chris Fowler's that guy, in that he's second in the conference in scoring. This is coming off a year where he was a setup guy and wasn't looking to score. But I think at the end of last year you saw that, and this year you're seeing it as well. We need Chris Fowler to continue to do that. We need other guys to knock down shots, and then I need another player or two to be able to be a Chris Fowler, to be able to take it to the basket, whether in post play or off the dribble, and score for us.
We saw that at the end of last year with Kyle Randall, who was able to do that for you. And congratulations to Kyle. I think I just saw today that he's kind of cemented a spot on the team that he's at right now in Fort Wayne in the CBA. So congratulations to him. He's doing well. He did a great job.
You're showing your age. NBDL now.
NBDA.
CBA was back in the day. But, I think it was exciting for us to see him drafted in the 4th round by the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. I'm still looking to go buy myself a Mad Ants T-shirt.
It's kind of Chippewa colors. It kind of looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. And was disappointed when he didn't make that opening day roster. But you understand a lot of those players returning, and a lot of the NBA teams have contracts of players that they send down there. But it didn't surprise me at all that he continued to work and improve. And when there was an injury, he stepped in and then all of a sudden earned a spot. That when those guys came back healthy, which they've done now, didn't take his spot. Took somebody else's spot, and won't be surprised to see him have a great pro career and continue to work and continue to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. He was great when he was here. Too bad we only had him for a year. Would have been nice to have him for a few more, wouldn't it?
It would, but I think we'll look back at some of the good, great teams that we'll have and realize that guys like Kyle Randall, they made their mark here and helped us move the program forward.
All right, Coach is going to stick around. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about what's ahead for Central Michigan. That means Mid-American Conference play here and Marygrove on January 3rd. So keep it right here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Back on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. Michigan dairy farmers are proud to provide post-workout chocolate milk for CMU student-athletes. Nutrient-rich chocolate milk helps athletes refuel and rehydrate after intense exercise. Keno Davis is here. We're talking a little Central Michigan men's basketball. They've got a little bit of a break. Coach doesn't have that much of a break. When you have downtime, and I don't know if everybody realizes this, and you were joking about this the other day, they feel like some folks think when you're not playing a game, you're going to practice, you got your feet up on the sofa, and life is good. But that's not quite the way it works for a basketball coach. Oftentimes, you're out and about on the road and doing a lot of different things. You're actually going to spend a little time recruiting coming up here, aren't you?
Yeah, they 2 days, 3 days. They don't allow us, during the holidays, to be able to be out there recruiting. But when you're not doing that, you're still preparing your recruiting database, your letters, your emails, your texts now. Those things are really important, that you're staying in touch with those kids, because some of the kids that we've lost out on because the other programs have been recruiting them for 2-3 years. We hadn't been here for 2-3 years. So it's not always this next recruiting class that you're working on. You're also looking at the future, and then the scouting, the preparation to be able to be ready when the players come back to go full bore.
When you're talking to these young guys about coming to Central Michigan, what are you telling them about the university? What are you telling them about the program? And a lot of times when I talk to players, once they've made a decision to come to a university like CMU, oftentimes they'll say it would have been, what the coach told me or what I heard about the program, or maybe I knew a player. There's a lot of factors that go into somebody deciding on a school, aren't there?
There are. I think it really focuses in on whatever's important to that individual. Your basics, or you're talking your academic situation, how they could be successful here, and how a degree at CMU can put them in a good position for whatever job, whatever career they want. And then on the basketball side, we're talking about how being able to play here can give them pro opportunities. We're talking about Kyle Randall coming in off of 5 points a game and how that pushed him. We're talking about Chris Fowler and how our system and our style mimics an NBA or professional style, and how being able to not only win games and compete for championships, but how at another level you don't have to go to Kentucky to be in the NBA, that you can do it here and have careers. So we're talking about laying out a plan for them for the next 4 years of how they can be successful, and when their basketball career is done, how they'll be in a great position to be successful in the real world.
Well, we've got the academics thing down cold. You're coming off of a season now where you have players moving into your system in year 2. They've been very successful in the classroom, and I'm sure the parents really appreciate that when they hear about that. And then style of play, I would think that's a big thing, and you mentioned it too. How much do they talk to your existing players or watch you guys? Now a lot of games are up on the web, and they can see how you play, and you're running up and down the court, at least trying to. That's got to help as well.
It does. I think on the academic side, we're getting those grade reports back, and we're going to be right about a 3-point GPA, which is going to put us, in estimation about top 20 in the country in Division I men's basketball programs. Some I won't say it exactly because I don't want to get in trouble. But,
right.
Blake Hibbett's getting a 4-point again. I mean, we've got some real highlights to be able to stress to recruits. And then on the basketball side, you're looking at all of those types of things, the style of play, how that they can see themselves, playing in the maroon and gold. I mean, it's important for them to be able to envision, not just talk about NBA and winning championships and scoring a lot of points, but they've got to really be able to see themselves here in Mount Pleasant and being successful.
And it seems like your program, from being around it and being on the road and watching practices, you're not a coach that seems like, how do I want to put this, very, very old school. You're not after guys every 5 minutes. I mean, you get done what you want to get done, but you do it in a way that's your personality. And I would think word gets around about that as well, doesn't it?
I'm only after those guys in the striped shirts, especially.
Congratulations on your first technical the other night, by the way.
Thanks. I've never gotten a technical for being one foot outside of the coaching box. I thought that was pretty interesting. But as the official told me, Coach, you're a long way from home down here in Alabama, and welcome to the South. So,
wow.
But I think the yelling, some of the antics that you see from some of those coaches, it can have a place. But I think it's important that when you do it, it can't be a constant voice of all you're doing is yelling and screaming, because you might think as a fan or as a coach that's improving players or having them work harder, but eventually they're tuning that out. And so when I do have to raise my voice, or when I am upset, they know that it's something that they have to be able to correct quickly. And so I think as recruits see that, they want to be taught, they want to improve. But they also want that relationship with their teammates, with their coach, that they feel is a two-way street. I'm learning from the players. They should be learning from us, and we should be doing this together to achieve goals. This isn't just us telling them what to do. It's important that we build this program and the players' development together.
Let's talk about your team a little bit before we let you go. When we look at your team right now, I think when we look at John Simons and Chris Fowler, they're kind of a given. It seems like you know what you're going to get from them every night. They've been very consistent for you. And you're talking about those other guys kind of fitting in. What are you excited about from your other guys right now that you've seen glimpses of that maybe they haven't been quite as consistent, but you can see that flash because you haven't had them that long yet where you're thinking to yourself, boy, later on down the season or maybe even next year, he's really going to blossom?
Well, I'd say in general, maybe the thing that I'm most excited about that is I don't know who it's going to be. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I mean, it could be somebody like an Austin Stewart that wasn't playing last year to be able to develop. It could be somebody next week coming in. The guys that I think, if I were to guess, I'd say Austin Stewart, because of his build, his strength. He's shown glimpses to be able to not only score, but to rebound and defend. And I think Braylon Rayson coming in as a freshman, he's something that we don't have. I mean, he's fast. He can score. He'll drive me nuts with some of the decisions he makes. But he's going to be out there. We're going to live with some of them. And he understands. He's not uncoachable. He's just trying to figure out what we want and how to do it. But when he's on a roll, you can't stay in front of him. I don't care who we play in the country. You can't slow him down. And the idea of having Chris Fowler, or Rayshon Simmons, or Braylon Rayson, we got 3 point guards. Don't be surprised to see 3 point guards on the court at the same time as we get into conference play for stretches, because it's going to be tough to guard us, and we're going to be able to use pressure because of those guys.
We've already seen that in some stretches already this season with those 3 on the floor.
Yeah, and I think also be watching us as a shooting team. We've had some bad shooting nights. We've had as bad as shooting nights for a good shooting team as I think you'll have, but I think that's the development of freshmen and sophomores. They have to go through it a couple times, hopefully not a whole year, before they're able to have that shooting touch. And we were able at Jacksonville State, maybe the bright spot was that we cut down the number of three-point attempts that we had from 30 to 20. Hey, when you're shooting well, yeah, we'll shoot more of them. We'll light it up from the outside, but we've got to be able to be more selective before we fire up 30, 35 threes a game.
Yeah, those closeouts come a little quicker in college basketball than high school, don't they?
They do. It's funny how some of the best shooters, when you look back in college, they had trouble their freshman year. Mm-hmm. They just did not shoot well, and now they're in the NBA shooting from 6-7 feet further away than they were. And we're going to have a couple of those guys that can light it up, and looking forward to see him do it.
Well, we will see you back on the court against Marygrove. That's coming up on January 3rd. And then, of course, the Mid-American Conference opener. How nice is it to have it at home against Miami? And both those games are at 7 o'clock. One's a Friday, one's a Wednesday. So we encourage everybody to come on out. Well, have a nice holiday.
All right.
Try and spend some quality time with family. I'm sure you will be able to, and we hope everybody gets healthy in time for Christmas.
That's what I'm wishing for, a healthy team.
Absolutely. All right, head coach of the Chippewas, Keno Davis, will come back, talk a little Central Michigan women's basketball on the other side. You're listening to the CMU Sideliners program on the Sports Network.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. If it doesn't say Lakeshore, you paid too much. America's
Sideliners program. Fabiano Brothers, Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. This week's Members First Credit Union Scholar Athlete of the Week is Zach Klein of the wrestling program. A native of Hartville, Ohio, Klein has earned a 3.32 grade point average as a communications major. Zach Klein, this week's Members First Credit Union Scholar Athlete of the Week. Members First Credit Union making a positive difference now with 2 locations in Mount Pleasant. Time to talk a little CMU women's basketball because a big game is looming on the horizon. Heather Osterly is here, and Andrew Woodrich. We like to call you Woody, right? That's how you.
Woody's good.
That's why you go by with everybody calls. We'll call you that. All right, let's talk a little bit about your season so far. We'll get to the Irish here in just a little bit because I know that's on everybody's mind. But it's been a non-conference schedule for you guys, and I know Coach G is responsible for putting this thing together. What are your thoughts? Because it's been another murderer's row for you, hasn't it, Heather?
Yeah, it's been a tough one. Just like last year, we're preparing our team not only for the MAC conference, but also, hopefully for the NCAA tournament. We scheduled just as tough as we did last year, and it's not going to get any easier before conference starts. We have 3 really tough games on the road. But our team knows the ultimate goal, and I think Coach G's been good at reminding them, what we're playing for.
Woody, when you look at last season, do you think those non-conference games and how difficult that schedule was really paid off down the stretch and being able to win the MAC?
Absolutely. We weren't afraid to be in the moment, and obviously we all understand. Last March we had 3 games, and that's what our season came down to. But it was just a familiarity to be in those games. That allowed us to get that basket when we needed to. And when you're playing Bowling Green and Toledo and Akron, back to back to back. You have to bring your A game every day and be consistent with what you were doing, and that definitely enabled us to kind of get over the hump there.
So you start the season against UMass. You get a nice big victory there. Then you go to Kentucky. We all know what the men's atmosphere is like in Lexington. How is it for the women?
Oh, they actually play in different arenas. So
I did
it's a
notice that,
smaller arena, but they packed it. They had, 4,000 people there. It was a great crowd. We actually had quite a few people there, too. We had some people travel down from Detroit, but it was a great atmosphere. We played in in front of some good crowds already, and expecting that against Notre Dame, too. We have quite a few people traveling to that game as well.
I had a chance to watch that game on the web, and it looked like, Woody, that Kentucky was they're just too big. I mean, when I looked at their lineup, I thought to myself, man, oh, man. I mean, you can hang in there a little bit at times with a team that's big, but they just keep bringing those big bodies at you, don't they?
They do, and they definitely come in waves. And obviously it gave us a lot of struggles, a lot of issues, but it's good to see that. Because when you play them in November, I mean, let's face it, with that atmosphere that Heather just said, there is a shock factor. There is, and there's no way around that. But it's good to get that out of the way because we would love to see them, on down the road in March. And you know what? We showed we can play with them. We can play with them. But like you said, Don, they definitely come at you in waves. And it's good just to get that initial shock out of the way in November. And so next time we go on the floor, with a team like that, we understand what we're going up against. And at the end of the day, that shock factor goes away and you just play ball.
Then you have losses against Marquette, Kansas, and the number 2 team in the country at the time, Duke. And you get a win in the final game of that Paradise Jam against Xavier, 88-62. And I'm guessing that really helped you coming back to have that win at the end when you had a couple losses starting to pile up a little bit. Even though they were against really good teams, a loss still can bring your team down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And after the Duke game, Coach sat our team down and, reinforced, how good we are, because we had put them up against Kentucky, Marquette, Kansas. And she really went through each and every one of our players and, told them what their strengths were and how good we were as a team. And I think that helped us going into that Xavier game because we came out firing.
Woody, it seems like you have a confident bunch, but were they down a little bit at that time? Was that something that was really needed?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And that's the thing that, people talk about all the time is, Coach G, the schedule could really work against you. You get on a skid. And you know what? Coach does a really good job of being aware of that. And like Heather said, she did that at the right time. Nobody likes losing. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Nobody likes to lose. We're all competitors. And it really helped because we come out the next day and hit 18 threes in the game. And it just helps just to be reinforced. Obviously, we need to be reminded when we need to get better. But, just helps, just to be reinforced about, how good we are and how good we can be. And that was certainly on display the very next game.
Well, and the next game is kind of your landmark game for the season against Dayton here at home. And Heather, walk me through that at the end. You're down, you're trailing. It looks like the game's over.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden, one of those rare things happens where you're able to come back at the end, and then you win it on a steal and a three-pointer at the end of the game.
I know. It couldn't have happened any better. I mean, we fouled the kid we wanted to foul. They set up a press breaker, gave the ball to her. She misses both free throws. We come down. Taylor Johnson hits a bank three, ties it up.
Did she try to even say that she called it? Or,
no. But, Taylor's hit some really big shots for us throughout her career.
Yeah. She's not afraid to take those either, is
no,
she?
she's not. And then, they draw up another timeout. They draw up another press breaker. We were just picking up full, trying to keep people in front of us and not let them run the time off the clock. They throw right to Taylor. She falls. Thank goodness. She falls. She falls, gives it right to Crystal. I mean, and the rest is history. But it was really exciting. It was a great win for our program because we're playing a really good Dayton team. And I thought our team was well prepared for the game. Woody did a great job on the scout. But it was just an overall really good win for our program.
Yeah, it's funny, too, Woody, when you're never sure on whether it's going to really make noise nationally. And then it ends up on ESPN. I think it was, number 2 play on SportsCenter, I think I saw. And something like that, really, you can't quantify what that means for a program when it's spread out all over the nation. Everybody knows about Central Michigan right there.
Absolutely. It was great to be just on that national stage. It really was. And it's not about, any one of us. And, obviously, Crystal's a big-time player. She had a huge shot, just huge shot. But, it's great just that people recognize who we are, and any time that we can be in that spotlight for the program and for Coach G, I've never been a part of anything like it, and I don't know if I ever will again.
Fabiano Brothers, Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
We've got you covered.
Back on the Fabiano Brothers, Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. With the YP app, YP.com site, and YP Real Yellow Pages directory, you can find everything you're looking for locally. It's everything you want all in one place. Central Michigan women's basketball team, big win at home in the Hoops for Hunger game. Really turned it on in the second half. I was catching, I just happened to turn the game on the web stream at the start of the second half. It was unbelievable. I'm not going to talk about the first half. You already mentioned that. 90-66 was the final. A good primer for Notre Dame on Sunday, number 4 in the country. And a Notre Dame team that we saw, was it last season? Or 2 years? It was last season, or 2 years ago? Last season.
Last season they played here.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you guys hung in that game.
Yep.
Is the young lady who was the All-American still around for that team, or is she gone now?
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, the guard.
Skylar's gone.
Yeah, is she?
Yeah.
Well, that's good news.
She's gone. That helps.
Tell me about Notre Dame. Obviously, they're very, very good again. They're in the top 10. That's a program that seems like it's up there every year. How much different is this year's team compared to the one we saw last year in Mount Pleasant?
What they a lot of the same. A lot of the same. They just a lot of their kids are a year older, in a year better. They obviously with the graduation of Skylar, they have a freshman point guard now that's getting the majority of those minutes. But a lot of their key players are back. They do a lot of the same stuff as they did last year, and it's been really, really good to them. We know what we're up against, and again, it's just a credit to what we've seen. Not only last year when we played them directly, but just the caliber of teams that we've played. The last 8 games, 9 games. It's going to really prepare us for a situation to go down to South Bend and compete and to play the best that we can.
Do they compare to anybody that you've seen on your schedule already as far as from size or style of play?
You know what, size, yes. Style of play, they're Don, they're pretty skilled. They really are. Especially positions 1 through 4, they're pretty skilled. But yeah, size-wise, they're comparable to a Kentucky or to a Marquette. But I don't think they're as athletic as maybe a Kentucky at positions 1 through 5. Certain positions they certainly are. But they play really well together. They know what they're about. They run their stuff really, really well. And they just do a really good job with what they do.
Well, they're a very good team. It's going to be another challenge for the Chippewas, and then Purdue and Dayton on the road. Then you come back with that huge it's going to be your Mid-American Conference opener. Non-conference season will be done at that point. Saturday, January 4th against Toledo. And maybe the Rockets not quite what they have been the past couple seasons, but still going to be very good, right?
Yeah, still going to be very good, very well coached. They lost 4 seniors from last year. Their point guard that was really good, and then Yolanda Richardson, their post player. But they returned 2 starters in Dortch and then Inma. And also a transfer from Illinois who didn't see a lot of time the last couple of years, but she they're going to be a very good team. It's going to be a good start. Hopefully it's a good atmosphere here. Hopefully we get a lot of people in the stands. But it's going to be a challenge right away.
Yeah, some great battles with the Rockets through the year, so that'll be a lot of fun to start here at home against them on January 4th. Well, good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
We'll be listening and watching back here in Mount Pleasant. Wish you well, and we all won, right?
We do. They beat us here. It was down to the wire.
It was a great game.
Yeah, and our players are going to be ready.
And a great crowd, too, and I'm sure they're going to have a great crowd there, and they'll be ready for you, too, after what happened here last year.
They sure will.
Heather, Woody, thank you so much. Thanks for stopping by. Have a nice Christmas.
Thanks, Don. Merry Christmas to you, too.
You, too. Go get some wins. All right.
All right.
Going to come back on the CMU Sideliners after this timeout on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Bud Light presents NFL
Clear.
Fan Dilemmas.
Should I put these Bud Lights on your tab?
Just supposed to get this round.
We have one more break after this
But
one.
on my rounds,
There's this one and one more.
play better.
We have 2 left.
It's good luck when I buy Jeff's beers. But I don't want to buy
Yes.
Jeff's beers.
Back on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network, I'm Don Chiodo. Joining us now is the head coach of the Central Michigan Gymnastics program. He's only got, 14 MAC titles, 9 MAC Coach of the Year.
It's nice to be here.
You're a little bit
another season.
You're a little bit under the weather. Thank you for coming out when you're.
Yeah, not a problem. Just always glad to be here with you.
Let's talk a little bit about this squad, and I'm getting the feeling that you're pretty excited. You got a bunch of folks back, and you have a freshman class that you're pretty excited about too, aren't you?
I tell you, it's a veteran team. It's a young team, believe it or not. Mostly younger kids. We have 2 seniors, Brittany Petzel and Emily Hines, both captains. Lots of collegiate experience, have done very, very well, not just in the conference but nationally. And they're doing a really good job of piloting the younger kids. But when you look at our lineup, we're going to be pretty young, and our freshman class is going to be counted on for sure.
All right. We're going to take a quick timeout,
right.
come back with Jerry. We're going to talk more about the upcoming season and much, much more. So keep it right here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. If it doesn't say Lakeshore, you paid too much. America's best cars, trucks, and minivans cost less every day at Boyd Earl's Lakeshore Chrysler in Montague. Go to BoydEarl.com.
Hey, Chance.
All right, guys, listen up. Before you step out.
On the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network, Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. Chippewa Cab is providing round-trip rides from the Towers parking lots and North Campus in front of Robinson Hall on men's basketball game days for only $1. It's great news this time of year. Chippewa Cab providing simplified, convenient transportation for our fans. And visit themorningsun.com for the latest sports and news updates. The Morning Sun in print every day, online all the time. Jerry Reigard is here, the Central Michigan Gymnastics coach. He's been around this university a long time with a lot consecutive MAC title.
Boy, we would really like to do that. We're the only team in the conference that ever has won 4 straight. We did that twice. We kind of like to make that record untouchable and go 5. I know our seniors are very set on that, and everyone is really behind them. So, yeah, 5 would be nice.
When you talk about goals with your team, with all the success that you've had, I would think you're even thinking about taking it a step further, and that would be regionals and getting out of regionals and getting to the finals, right?
Yeah. Not that getting to the NCAA tournament it's a challenge every year, and we're excited to do that. But yeah, we really want to get out of that, and I think we have a team that can do that. I think they're going to have to work very hard to accomplish that. We definitely have the talent. We're just struggling on a little bit of air, like to make it look like we're the next level. We're doing the skills, but we don't quite have that appeal to the judges. And it's really tough to make that transformation for some reason. And so that's one of my coaching challenges.
Is that a confidence thing? What is that?
Yes, it is. It is. Definitely. That's really probably a more accurate way of describing it. When we're doing our routines, we're as good as anybody we compete against. And we found that out last year at the tournament. Mm-hmm. They didn't out-trick us, but they did outperform us. And so it's just a confidence feeling that when you land, you throw your arms back, your head comes up, and you sell the very end. And believe it or not, that buys you a half a tenth. And last year we were a half a tenth per routine out of getting out of regionals. So we know what it takes. It's just doing it.
Yeah, and I would imagine it's very difficult because, just that particular day, if you have maybe just one small mistake, that can be the difference like you talked about, right?
Oh, it is. And the other thing is, our athletes, to be honest with you, we're never elite athletes. And they have to beat elite athletes to get to the next level. So, my challenge to them every day is quit acting like a level 10, which is almost that international. That's where they came from, that international level. You got to get to the international level look. And, again, it's not the skills. It is the appearance, the overall general impression that we have to portray.
Well, you get started January 5th here at home. And tell me a little bit about what you've been doing, because you've been going at it pretty good here for what, maybe almost a couple months?
Oh, it never stopped.
Yeah?
No, no, it never stopped. We actually forced our team to take a week off after regionals last year.
Okay.
And they were in the office, I'm ready. And our entire team stayed for the entire summer this year.
Wow.
And kind of a two-edged sword, because that's never happened before. I think I learned a lot. The one thing that I learned is by doing that, we never really had enough rest to heal, to contend with. But no, we started. Well, it never ended. It never ends with our sport. So
well, I think that says a lot about your young ladies, though, too, to make that commitment to stick around for the whole summer, right?
Super commitment. This is probably one of the top 3 teams I've ever coached, with everything from being polite to the work ethic that they display from the freshmen to the seniors. It's a joy to come to practice every day. I can't say that for every team I've ever coached.
For you through the years, you've had so much success, and you have these young ladies that you see through the years, and you have year after year, you have seniors talking to freshmen and talking about the way you do things as a coach. I would think at some point that's got to take a little bit of the burden off you.
You would think so, but it doesn't. It really doesn't.
You won't let it, will you?
No. The freshmen definitely are communicated to by the seniors about this is a must, this is a no, those kinds of things. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to persuade my upperclassmen to do that kind of stuff and live that life. But as a personal challenge to myself, I have to keep upping the ante of what I'm asking myself and my staff to do so that it takes us that much closer to that national level. So, I kind of feel like I'm at this point in my career, I've been coaching 39 years. I really feel like I'm coming into my own. I really think I've learned how to coach now.
You might be just coming around the bend here,
But
Jerry.
yeah, I think so. And so, I can make statements that actually make sense to my team now. Sometimes I got those goofy looks like, what's he talking about? But pretty much, they are true believers in the system, and that's made a big difference.
Take me through the different disciplines and where you feel like your strength.
Well, we have 4 events. We start on vaulting in what we call Olympic order. So every home meet we have those 4 events. We start on vaulting. Vaulting for us should be a very dynamic event. We have some great athletes, but we're not very deep there. And that's a little scary to me. So vaulting is sort of like diving. It has a degree of difficulty. So we have to put out vaults that could possibly score 10 points, and we don't have enough of those.
And without a lot of depth, that's one area where you can see ankle injuries and that sort of thing on landings.
A little. And to be honest with you, we don't have enough depth to really feel confident that we can replace those. The second event at a home meet would be bars. Bars, I think, is going to be a very strong event for us this year. We have some big dismounts, which I think is going to put us over the edge in the way that we're viewed by the judges. The third event for us is balance beam. Balance beam is basically grace on 4 inches, and so they're going to be very, very good on balance beam. The problem with beam is, and I just said it, it's 4 inches. You know, it doesn't. You know, you miss your little toe. Seriously, you miss your little toe, and not being at the right place, and you fall.
It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult as a coach to get mad at somebody that falls off balance beam. So that being said, floor is going to be dynamic. We have 10 great floor workers, and there's going to be some heartaches when it comes to making the lineup. So I think we're pretty balanced, and we stay away from the injury bug. We're going to be in good shape.
A little competition is always a good thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I thrive on that, and when you have to compete every day against the best gymnasts in the conference just to get in the lineup, you up your game constantly.
Well, you'll get started on Sunday, January 5th, and you're at home for what seems like a month. So
It is. My bosses are all mad that we have 7 home meets, and I said, hey, it's taken me 30 years to get 7 home meets. Don't get mad at me about this.
Exactly. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by.
All right, I appreciate it.
Get
Thanks,
well
Tom.
soon. Have a great holiday.
I'm planning on it. Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for the CMU Sideliners. Have a great holiday, everybody. I'm Don Chiodo for everybody at the IMG Fabiano family. Thank you.
Clear.
Thanks for listening to CMU Sideliners, presented
You got it,
by
man.
Fabiano Brothers.
Have a good holiday.
On the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan
Sounds good, man.
IMG Sports Network. CMU Sideliners
You too.
is also presented.